everyone, welcome back to Rachel's Studio, and in today's tutorial it's going to be really fun. We're going to learn my eye secrets to painting a dreamy, realistic eye. I have talked a lot on this channel about how to paint eyes, but they're always popular, so I'm going to tell you specifically how I painted the eye in this loose, sleepy fawn painting that I did for my Patreon members. It's really loose and fast and just fun, no pressure. And the eye, though, is the star of the show in this painting. And even though this painting as of this recording is not finished, the eye is pretty much done. So I want to share some of my best eye painting tips with you. But first, for those of you who are new to my channel, I'm Rachel. And if you want to learn not just the hows, but the why of watercolor, so you move on your journey a lot faster, then subscribe because we have a lot of fun. So what you're going to see today is just an outtake clip taken straight from my Patreon tutorial that I did of this start to finish tutorial of this sleeping fawn. So if you would like to watch this and over 100 other tutorials from start to finish, and with each tutorial including a line drawing, supply list, and reference photo, then be sure to join my Patreon. And if you join for a year, you get 2 months free. And depending on what tier you choose, you get in-depth critiques from me. By the way, the tips that I'm going to share with you apply to whether you're painting a cat eye, human eye, fawn eye, and that's true of all my tutorials. And without further ado, let's go ahead and look at how I painted this fawn's eye. And I've got this drawn out on Arches cold press, 140 pound, 11 by 14 format, so I have plenty of room to play around with ideas and splash around and get more details. So I'm painting this in an 11 by 14 format. And the first thing we're gonna do is put on some masking. So to apply masking, I use some soap, some water, and some Winsor Newton removable masking. It does go bad, so if you've had yours more than 6 months, give it a sniff, and if it still smells like ammonia, it's still good. And the first thing I do is I get my rigger wet, I scrub it in soap, and that protects the bristles. And for my super beginners, the white of your paper is the white in your painting. So what masking does is it's like a liquid plastic, and you paint it on and it dries, and then it protects the white of your paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some masking in my brush. Sometimes when you load up your brush, there's a glob on there's gonna be a glob. I just get that excess off like that. And then he's got a little glint in the eye here. All right, so now you see me a little bit later in the painting. We've let that masking completely dry. It takes only about 5 minutes. And now I'm just doing a little bit of underpainting with that light purple. And notice I took that purple right over the top of his face into the eye, and that will create some connection. You want your eye to be connected into the animal or the person, whatever it is that you may be painting. You want to create as many places of connection as possible. And now that little purple swish is completely dry. And after I add the blue underpainting on top of that, you won't be able to see it. But now I'm painting a mix of very tea consistency, cobalt blue and Winsor violet. And that's just the underpainting that reflects the sky. Painting around a few glints, if you didn't use masking. Getting my brush just damp now, and I blotted it out on paper so that I get even lighter paint coming out of my brush here, and more scrumbly and dry and controlled is the key. I'm painting around tiny little white highlights. See that white highlight I put around the curve of the top of the eye? That's going to be key. These tiny little details that are just like a millimeter wide are really going to make this eye pop and look so realistic and really draw the viewer in, and the viewer is going to barely notice the rest of the painting. And many a time I let the eye save a painting that I feel like there's a lot of mistakes elsewhere, but if the eye is on point, no one's going to notice. They're just going to look at that eye. So in goes some dreamy eyelashes with just the tip and a very light touch. And if you have not painted light eyelashes, light lines like this, practice on a piece of paper first, because it's not easy. It takes some muscle memory and practice. We're going to get that eye a lot darker. This is just the underpainting. So might want to watch all this footage first and then try your eye. But then I'm getting a nice white highlight eyeliner around the bottom of the eye to really pop that out, and trying to get parts of it at least as thin as possible, because those thin little details are so satisfying, because they just bring a touch of realism that the viewer's eye is going to enjoy having that. And then I'm attaching the values of the eye into the corner of the eye where the fur meets. You want to attach your eye with a medium on medium or a dark on dark edge, like my Rembrandt edges. If you haven't watched my Rembrandt edges video, it's key to understanding some of the things that I'm going to be explaining in a lot of my tutorials. So see, I'm putting in some darks now and letting them blend and merge with the darks in the fur. Almost having a disappearing edge, because that is what makes a painting look painterly. It's to have these disappearing edges. Getting really thick paint now on damp paper. And that is key too, to paint on damp paper, not puddling, not glistening, but buckling damp, where when you put on cream consistency paint, it just naturally has these dark or these soft edges. That eyes have soft edges in them. Where the pupil meets the iris, that should be a soft yet very controlled edge. And see, this area that I'm painting now, the little eyeliner that's dry already, that's fine. Those edges can be hard. But inside the eye, where the pupil meets the iris, you want that to be soft, to really make it look painterly. And the only way to do that is cream consistency paint on damp paper. Kind of the only way. If you don't do that, let it completely dry and then go in and scrub at it a little, that can soften your edges too. So actually there is another way to soften edges. That is with gently scrubbing at edges that are really stiff and hard. That'll soften them too. Ooh, now look at that eye. Isn't it just beautiful? I love it. It just makes the whole painting come alive, doesn't it? All right, blotting out my brush. I'm blending here with a damp brush, damp, clean brush. And in a minute, you're going to see me squeeze out my brush and then lift up some eye color out of the bottom third of the eye. And for my new people, you're going to learn I have a formula for eyes. I do it almost every time. I make the top third of the iris dark, the middle third the most colorful medium, the bottom light, to give it a lot of, it just really makes it come alive to have those three values gradiated out from dark to medium to light as you move down the iris. Now, sometimes I'll get eye that, for whatever reason, weird lighting or whatever, doesn't lend itself to that. But I would say 90% of my eyes, I just use that formula, even if it's not in the reference photo. All right, I'm going to put in this other eye. I don't want this eye to be the star of the show. It's just going to be kind of quiet. So I'm going to get some lamp black with some Winsor violet. Dip just my tip in to get about milk consistency, to get a nice bit of paint in my brush. Because this Fawn has these long, beautiful wispies. You can also use some gel pen. You can activate it on your skin like that. Often that's what it needs. Just putting a few little extra touches of texture in here. See, another tiny little detail I could add. I'm getting my little size 2 round. Getting just a touch of tea consistency, just junk burnt sienna with whatever it has mixed in it. I don't care what. Gonna do a little blot. And there's a little bit of a more burnt sienna on my brush. A little bit of a crease here. Like I said, I like to do a few extra detail bits in this area to really get it looking good. And I'm going to keep the rest of it pretty quiet and unfinished. For now, I'm going to call this done. I think I learned what I wanted to learn from this painting, and I hope you learned a lot too. Let's give it a little signature. All right, thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial, and I hope you'll join me for the next one. And until then, go watercolor your world. Bye, everybody.